Now here's a message from Colonel Jerry Biggers, Chief of the Highway Patrol.
As we begin this new program, I believe it is important to discuss with you where we are going and what we hope to accomplish. In the past, we have done the majority of our in-service training here at the Robert R. Lester Training Center. This has caused the majority of you to be away from your assigned areas and homes for as much as 4 to 5 weeks a year. With the new video equipment, we will attempt to do the majority of our in-service training by this method. You will still be required to do a minimum of 40 hours in service here at the training center. For this program to be successful, it will take a commitment from each of you. We solicit your support and your ideas. For us to accomplish what we hope to accomplish from retraining, it must be meaningful and useful. We've just received a 20-minute tape from Nassau County in New York on the handling, loading, firing of the 870 Remington. This tape is well done, and in the future we hope to be training tapes with other agencies. Another advantage of the video system is that it will allow us to bring information to the field on a need-to basis. If you have any questions, if you'll contact public information, we will attempt to get you the answers.
Governor Nye held a press conference at the state capitol recently and discussed the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit and no-tolerance policy. DPS Report was there.
As you know, I was among a group of 40 governors which met with President Carter last week at the White House. We were briefed on the implications of the cutoff of Iranian oil to our economy. I pledged then that Oklahomans would do whatever is necessary to conserve energy so that we could demonstrate to the world that we will not be blackmailed. Last Saturday, I asked all Oklahomans to join with me in taking certain voluntary measures. If every American would use 1 to 2 gallons of gas less per week, we would save an amount of energy equivalent to Iranian imports. Since Iran represents only 4% of our total oil supply, we should be able to weather this shortfall with little difficulty so long as we do not panic in our buying habits. I've requested all Oklahomans to follow a $6 minimum purchase guideline. If people will not fill up their cars with gasoline unless they buy at least $6 worth, then we will not create a shortage out of a shortfall. If people start panicking and topping their tanks, however, we will indeed create a shortfall. Today, I'm announcing actions which I will hope save considerable motor fuel in Oklahoma. I have directed Commissioner Reed of the Department of Public Safety to begin rigidly enforcing the 55-mile-per-hour speed limit on all Oklahoma highways. If Oklahomans comply with the speed limit, we will save about 4% of our present motor fuel consumption, or about 250 gallons per day. This amounts to saving what we were importing from Iran. This is the patriotic action to take, and I call upon all Oklahomans to join with me in demonstrating to the world that we cannot be blackmailed by any oil-producing country. Besides meeting the current challenge, there are other benefits to adhering to the 55-mile-per-hour speed limit. We would save approximately 100 lives each year in Oklahoma because of the lower speeds. I feel very strongly about this, and I think the American public wants to do whatever they can to demonstrate to the world that we're not going to be blackmailed, that hostages don't mean that we're going to give in, whether it be in oil or in any other area. And I'm calling upon Oklahomans to continue their good buying practices. I'm calling upon them to further conserve. And as announced, I'm asking Commissioner Reed and the Department of Public Safety to rigidly enforce 55-mile-per-hour speed limit. To my left, we have some signs that will be going up immediately on the borders of the state of Oklahoma, and other signs will be installed around the state. And John, the larger sign, the speed limit strictly enforced, no tolerance, will be placed on the borders, along the turnpike and other 4-lane areas. So originally it'll start at the border, and Then the smaller signs will be erected in the areas where speed limit signs are already in existence, so that they will go up all over the state. I've asked the Department of Transportation to put them up immediately. Some time ago, you'll recall that at various press conferences, you have asked me what are some of the alternatives that you've been considering as governor to conservation, etc. At my direction, the Department of Transportation several months ago had these signs made should we figure we came to the time when this should be rigidly enforced. I feel that today that the mood of the people is such that this is the time that they will comply with our request. In addition to that, I think it's appropriate as we approach the Thanksgiving holidays and people have long driving patterns set in front of them, and we're talking about saving lives, that it's an appropriate tie-in that through the saving of lives and the patriotic responsibility to free this country from any potential blackmail go hand in hand.
In response to the governor's announcement, Commissioner Reed had these comments at a staff meeting.
It's clear that the governor is in a position that he feels that we must take affirmative action to do something to join with the rest of the country in precluding the possibility of blackmail. And of course, it's not a fringe benefit, but we all know that this will definitely save lives and have less injuries and casualties and that sort of thing. There still must be some discretion vested in the troopers out on the road. My answer to this, and after this press conference, Chuck, what's-his-face from Tulsa World, can't think of his name, called me and said, what has been the tolerance? And I told him that since I had been on board, there had been no tolerance in the real sense of the word that we say, okay, let them go 4 or 5 miles per hour over the speed limit before you ticket them. I said the bottom line of that is that we have the highest caliber of personnel in our organization, the best trained and the most dedicated group of individuals I've ever come across, and we've got to have confidence in their judgment. And I said, very similar to what the governor had said, we are not robbing the individual trooper of his discretion. We just hope he uses his good judgment.
Well, DPS is back in the movies again. Pat Sims Productions, who filmed 10/8 for the department, is producing another film. I talked to Sims about the movie.
The title of the movie is It Goes with the Territory. We have Dale Robertson. He'll be narrating the film and also appear in it. And we're hoping to have Roy Clark sing an original ballad. It's a 28.5-minute public relations traffic safety film.
Okay, what's involved, Pat, in putting a film together like this?
About 6 months.
6 months.
From the time we start getting the sponsors, these are sponsored films by various companies, and it's free to the state, other than, you know, for the time and so forth expended by the department. And from the time we start getting the sponsors on the film until we deliver, it takes about 6 to 7 months.
How much realism do you try to put into your films?
Well, seeing as how most of the troopers are our worst critics out in the field, we try to make the film as realistic as possible.
Was there any unusual thing that happened during the shooting of the film?
Well, there are quite a few, but I don't think you'd want to put them on tape.
Governor Nye gave his State of the State message to the 37th Legislature recently. He explained his proposals for the department and law enforcement. Here's what he had to say.
We've spoken of Oklahoma's bright future and our efforts to improve the quality of life, but if people cannot feel secure, and if they are not, in fact, safe, then all the other efforts that we've given are wasted. I'm particularly proud that there's a new spirit of cooperation in the area of law enforcement. All law enforcement agencies are now in a single mini-cabinet, and that form has resulted in a bond of mutual assistance and understanding, and I really commend them. responding to the plea of Oklahomans for more and better law enforcement, we can do no less than equip our law enforcement agencies with the very latest technology and more manpower. Substantial budget increases are provided for the Department of Public Safety, the OSBI, and the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs. At my specific direction, the OSBI has developed recently a specialized unit to assist local communities in combating the frightening increase in the rate of sex crimes. Your funding will assure this expertise to the local law enforcement officers as they face this problem. To further help local communities as well as state agencies in their fight against crime, I recommend a major expenditure of almost $2 million to the OSBI for the purchase of a sophisticated fingerprint computer. This computer would be only the fourth of its kind in the entire country and will automatically make fingerprint comparisons and identifications that are simply not now possible. With the growing use of our lakes and recreational areas, it's necessary to provide our citizens and visitors with more assistance and security. I recommend additional waterway enforcement officers to be hired and placed in those locations. With the completion this year, with your help, of the one-man, one-unit concept, every single highway patrolman for the first time has his own vehicle. We have been able to actually have more highway patrolmen on the road. To further increase their overall coverage, I make 3 recommendations: additional troopers on the turnpike, additional courtesy patrol officers to assist the public and relieve some of the non-law enforcement duties from the troopers, and enactment of a voluntary extra shift compensation.
Each month, while the legislature is in session, we'll cover the progress of current legislation that affects the department. Lieutenant Bob Carlton, Public Information Officer, discussed the current legislation with Captain Larry Owen, Administrative Assistant to the Commissioner.
The legislature is back in session again, and here to discuss some of the programs the department's working with the legislature on is Captain Larry Owen, Administrative Assistant to the Commissioner. Larry, let's start off with a topic that's paramount in the minds of most employees. That's our pay program.
Well, thank you, Bob. Well, as you know, of course, pay each year is a very important piece of our legislative program, because we are line item employees, and salaries are designated by the legislature. We've had a problem, and it's been increasing over the last several years from the standpoint of making our minimums and maximums fit into or be compatible with the merit system pay schedule. We felt like it was very important this year that we get some consideration on some changes. And of course, Commissioner Reed, working with Governor Nye, has pointed out the inequities. And the governor did see that the program was really unworkable when you take a minimum and maximum from the legislature and try to fit it into a schedule that was drawn completely differently than our pay schedule was drawn. So the governor did write in to the bill that will cover our structure this time, what we call the new pay structure for the Highway Patrol Division. Besides giving us 11 additional people, which will allow patrol school this spring, he wrote in a situation which would enable us to bring a new trooper in at the new starting figure, which is $12,000 per annum. And within 36 months, they'd spend a year at the 12,000 figure and then go up each 6 months thereafter until they reach a maximum pay of $16,400 at the end of 36 months. And of course, this is really critical with us for recruiting purposes, retention purposes. We've been struggling along the last several years, having to work 6 and 6.5 and 7 years in order to go from minimum to maximum pay.
Okay, how about the hazardous duty pay that started last year? I understand that was structured only for 1 year. Will that continue?
Well, it was designed, of course, to continue. Now, it was placed in our appropriations bill last time instead of the structure bill. And the governor has placed it or codified it in our structure bill this time, so there should be no problem with that.
Okay, you mentioned more manpower. Also understand that there's a program to allow the present employees, members of the Highway Patrol, to work extra shifts in order to not only create more manpower with the people that we already have, but also provide an extra income.
Well, of course, this is a program that the governor looked at and liked very much from the standpoint that it allowed us to provide more coverage with our existing people without having to drastically increase our FTE. He provided money to more or less buy back shifts. In other words, it's operational money as well as salary money to provide for 150 to 165 additional shifts each month for existing Highway Patrol personnel. That would mean that a person, you have X number of days off, trooper does, he could, by arrangement through his district, could sell back, 1 or 2 of those days per month for the, the additional salary, which would not only help him, as you say, with being able to pick up some additional money without working outside the structure of the department, but it's drastically going to improve our coverage picture because of the fact that we have so much, capability for diversifying our coverage, and we use trained, experienced people rather than having to increase our FTE and bring on new people on board.
Okay. How about the driver examiner division? Are we working on a pay package similar to the Highway Patrol division here?
Yes, of course we've had the same problem in all of our statutory divisions, Highway Patrol, driver examiner, communications, of not being able to bring a person on board and get them up to maximum pay quickly enough to live in these inflationary times. So same type of structure has been created for the driver examiner division. Driver examiner now be brought on board at $9,660, which is the new starting pay per annum, and within 36 months they'll be up to their figure of maximum pay of $14,320.
Okay, and the same type of structure is being set up for communications personnel.
That's correct. The same type of 6-step structure, which would provide us the capabilities of bringing a person on board and within 36 months have them up to maximum pay. For driver or for communications personnel, say at the radio dispatcher 1, they'd start at the new starting pay of $8,035 per annum.